Hello again, everybody. This is Steve, coming back to you with another video on the Burgon Lion, or well, Land of the Lions, I should say. Starting out with the Burgon Lions. The Burgon Lions, as I mentioned before, were created basically in three groups. There was Tagani initially, then the original five, and then the rest of the lions, which were created by Feral Black in one of his manufacturing facilities with the intent of being super weapons. Burgon created them to be, just this really cool science and thought experiment. Feral Black wanted them to be the ultimate weapon system. And the funny thing is they ended up turning into that. They ended up becoming very, very good weapons, as a matter of fact. Now, the funny part is the way the family is structured. Everybody looks up to Tagani. When they can't look up to Tagani because he's not in the area, they all turn to the original five, which the original five were the first five created after him, and that's Yateka, Sabo, Renk, Poza, and Nikasa. And as you can see, they were broken up into pairs of male and female that traveled together and operated together in pairs. Yateka is the sister and right-hand lioness to Tagani. She goes everywhere with him, and she just loves her elder brother to death. She just loves him like crazy. She will die for him if need be, machine or not. She's still a living being, even though she's a machine, and she will gladly die for him. So, while I'm here, I got Tersar up. Tersar is the heaven equivalent for the Yigzan. The other two races have something slightly different, but for the Yigzan, Tersar is their quote-unquote heaven. I figured I'd cover that since that also comes up in the book on a couple of occasions. And no, it is not the heaven of the Bible. It is just, their iteration of heaven that goes with the book. Anyways, of the lions that are in the series, there are a number who they're instrumental to the story, and they're also, they also do a lot to move the story forward, but they also have their own unique personalities, like Pen, for example. Whoop. I broke my links again. Let me fix that real quick. I love it when I find problems while I'm talking on videos. So, anyways. Pen is the leader of, or what I would consider the secondary leader of the Burgon Lions. He's in charge of the other 650 lions that were built in Feral Black's manufacturing facility. And yawning again here. And while he is, while he defers to the original five, Tagani actually treats him as the direct second in charge. It's not like Pen to the original five to Tagani. It's Pen to Tagani, and the original five just happen to be there to help him out, because Tagani sees Pen's leadership ability early on. And he, Pen is a bit self-conscious. He considers himself inferior to Tagani, and he's got confidence issues and things, just like you'd expect for a normal person to have. That he's human in ways that what would not be normal for, like, if it was a regular lion, which is part of them being sentient machines and built by the Yigzan. They're going to carry a lot of the human-like characteristics of the Yigzan. So, but anyways, the funny thing about him is his sister TL, yes, I'm reusing images because I didn't have anything better, but TL is his sister, and she's funny because she's this real firebrand, and she's kind of this one that keeps him in line. So, like, he's a good leader, although, one lacking in confidence. But, she's like this, like I say, this firebrand that totally keeps him in line. When he starts straying off and having confidence issues, or he's obsessing over Tagani or something like that, she's over there to just to bring him right back to center real fast. And the fun part was the character model for her. If you've ever seen the Over the Hedge movie, The Skunk, she was the character model. So, if you need to figure out, without reading the book, what she was like, that was her character, or that was her character model. Let's see. Oh, I got ranked twice. Nice. Fix that. Like I say, I got it. The funny thing is, if you ever have a wiki, you will never find all of the problems that you have in the wiki until you try to present it to somebody. Anyhow, Neomara, she is one of the lions that was part of Penn's group. She's trying to think of what's special about her. Oh, that's right. She was one of Penn's inner circle advisors. So, and as you notice here, the characters that don't have enough information to justify their own page got plastered on this minor characters page. I got that for each of the different worlds. It's just my way of simplifying things. But anyways. Sink and Neomara they're a pair, and they advise Penn along with TL. Now, as I was mentioning before, the different lions have different likes and tastes and dislikes and hobbies and stuff like that. Ibarra is one of them. He is an archaeologist and history lover. This dude is like a history nerd to the max, even though he's a lion. Broma is one who likes codes and ciphers. He's got kind of that New Yorker feel to him. And the funny thing is, his family just hates him. They would rather just stuff him 6 feet under with or they'd love to shove him under 6 feet of dirt and leave it at that. So, there's that normal family and social interplay in between the lions, even though they are, they're machines, they're sentient machines. Because, like I say, they've got souls, so they've got that extra level of personality and life and different things like that a being with a soul would have. Let me go back here. Okay, that's all of those. One of the other characters in here that's kind of neat is the Tabions. These are direct servants of Meshwa and enemies of Nagago and his Vandros wolves, which these guys are just frickin' ugly. They're mean, they're ugly, they're nasty, they stink, they're covered in oil. They're just the quintessential epitome of evil on four paws. For all of you who like wolves and dogs, I apologize, but these guys worked best for the minions for Nagago in that particular, in the first book, and the other three as well. Although they only primarily show up in the first book, but they do make guest appearances in the other books. But anyways, basically, Nagago has these guys. Meshwa has these guys. And the Tabions are powerful. The Vandros fear them for good reason, because one of the Tabions could kick the daylights out of them if they really wanted to. But most of the Tabions are like, yeah, I'm not going to get my feathers dirty yet trying to mess with this guy. They just mostly do spying, observation, scouting. They'll bring messages. You don't see a lot of that in the book. You see them as they're out there, but they have a lot of different jobs that they do for Meshwa. They're, like I say, they're kind of his scouts, spies, messenger pigeons, etc. like that. So they're an interesting one. Since I keep mentioning Brace Sail, this right here is the hand-drawn, and yes, it's horrible. My artwork has never been good. Excuse me a second. Doggone it, got the coughs now. Yawns, then thirst, then coughs. Gotta love it. And it's always when you're doing a video. But anyways, this is the original image I drew. This actually survived the loss of my wiki because I had an offline copy, thankfully. But basically, If you laid out a map of the planet, you have the North Polar regions, the South Polar regions, the primary sea, which literally covers the whole planet, and then you've got the main continent where everybody's at. You have the Ixan homeland. You've got the central ridge, which is like a series of foothills. There's no mountains. It's just like a series of ridges, rocky ridges and foothills and stuff like that kind of split the land in half. This here actually saves the Ixan from being completely overrun. This is the Gorg homeland. This basically at the edge of the prairie here, where the Gorg homeland starts, it just turns into this gigantic forest, and the Gorg live in there. I mean, their land is about half the size of the Ixan homeland, and they've got like 4 times the people. So a little cozy over there, but they don't mind it. The Sadisons, because at the edge of the forest it turns into mountains, and the Sadisons live up in the mountains. That's some harsh living. That's some hard living, but they're warriors. They love it. That's their way of proving the warrior spirit, and and how they live and stuff. And then up here to the north, in the northern mountains, is where the Midizin fled to when they were banished from their Ixan homeland. They went up here, and they just kind of lived. They were like, okay, the Ixan want to go for science. The Midizin ended up breaking off from them and originally rebelling against the Ixan under the leadership of Councilman Midizin, because they were very much steeped in the old ways. You could think of it like... what's a good example? Well, they were into a lot of the let's just say if you picture like Babylon, the Babylonian religion, and the gods and the temples and the pyramids, and and the sacrifices and all that kind of stuff. That was how they were. They were very much cultic in a sense. I mean, the Ixan were for a while too. After they lost their technology, they kind of went into the whole, the whole pantheon of gods thing, and doing the same thing the Midizin were. But then when the Lions came in and they discovered technology, they threw all of that old religion stuff off. But the Midizin and his followers and the people that went with them didn't want that. They wanted to keep the pantheon, but the Ixan cast it off and wanted to go forward back into science again. And there came a civil war, which you'll learn more about. I'm not really spoiling anything by saying these things, but there was a civil war. Needless to say, the Midizin lost, and they headed up into the mountains, and they stayed there for about 1,200 years. Well, actually, about 1,100 years. And then one day, one of the Ixan explorers went up there into the mountains and ran into the Midizin. And all of a sudden, the Midizin realized, oh, crud, the Ixan are back, and they are way frickin' more advanced than we are. So what they did was they went and hyper-advanced themselves, looking like Ixan. I mean, there were some of them that clearly did not, and they were kind of rat-faced and stuff, and very distinctively Midizin, but there were some that looked very Ixan. So, they made their way down into the Ixan homeland, stole technology, brought it back up here, and over the next 100 years, they advanced the Midizin super fast. And then when it got to the right point, the Midizin then turned around and brainwashed the Gorg into turning against the Ixan, which is then what brought about the Gorg War. Later on, after that was resolved and the Midizin were defeated, the Midizin fled. And what's funny about them is they fled west, which then comes around to this side of things. So they ended up settling over here. Events then unfolded over here in this section of the continent, which brought the Horde over to the main continent. And I don't have names for these continents. I just kind of titled them like this. Because there was really no need for a name, so I didn't name them, but I just called them, main continent, eastern, and southern. But anyways, the Horde came over, started messing with the land. This spawns the Lions to come over here to the eastern continent. where they find Slough. They face the Horde. You can read all about that in book 2. And then the Yixan start colonizing the continent. But they're colonizing the western half of the continent, and the Midison are over on the eastern half. Well, the Midison then kind of circle around and come over here and prepare to invade the Yixan homeland, which ultimately fails. Let's just say there was a lot working against them. So, and again, I'm not spoiling anything. The things I'm telling you are just the lightest brushing on the top of everything that happens. There's a lot that the Midison actually succeed at when they're attacking the Yixan homeworld. This area down in here, they have Midison. They have a lot of different random islands in there. There is a lot of mid-continental ridgeline. I just noticed my note. That thing right there is mid-continental ridgeline. So, anyways, there's all these different islands down here, and there's a lot of piracy and stuff. They have Gorg sailors and Yixan sailors and Sadison sailors that are down here constantly working to deal with those pirates. Because there's a lot of fishing that goes on through here and up through here. Not a lot over here, but definitely a lot here and a lot here, because that's kind of like the best fishing grounds. The area between the eastern and the main continent on this side, up here, there's nothing worth bothering up there. The subpolar oceans up here, not terribly great breeding grounds for stuff. Same thing down here. The main juicy area is up through here and up through here, and that's where the majority of the fish are. Anyways, in book 4, events eventually lead to, this island down here, this continent down here, is pretty much completely uninhabited through the majority of the series right up until the last book. And then there's events that happen up here, triggered by the Midison, that force Yixan, Gorg, and Sadison. I don't think the Midison do, if I remember the story right. I'd have to read through that again. But I know the Yixan, Gorg, and Sadison flood down here. Not all of them. Some of them do, some of them do not. If you read the 7th book of the Narnia series, there was kind of that same idea in there, where some people and some of the creatures were saved, some of them were not. It's kind of the same idea here, where all the bad people stay up here, all the good people are encouraged to come down here, and they're encouraged by Meshwa. They kind of have this... I can't even think of what it was. It was... if you've ever read Left Behind, there was... when the Jews from Israel were fleeing to Petra, they had that airlift project that was going on. They were taking people out in cars, they were taking them out in helicopters and stuff. It's kind of the same idea. Some people they're flying down there, some people they're boating them down there. Brakeman and the others arrive in style in their own starship, and I won't tell you about that one. You'll have to learn about that on your own, but it's really cool. I mean, they just kind of come in, I can't say that. I was trying to think of what it was. I was going to say drive it like you steal it, like you stole it, but that's not correct. They come in this Abernai starship, and it's just so cool how it all works out. But anyways, you'll like it. But yeah, anyways, this stays uninhabited up until that point, and it's a very important reason why it needs to stay that way. Again, you got to read the book to find this out. But yeah, that continent. That continent is not used. And matter of fact, the eastern continent doesn't get used until the Horde actually encourage everybody over here to start colonizing over here, which is funny because there's still so much free space over here. They really don't need to start spreading out. They're not even really filling up the main continent or even taxing it in the slightest way, despite the fact that the Gorg like to breed like rabbits. But, even then, they're not overpopulating the continent. So... they, even the ones that go over to the eastern continent, there's not a lot of them. They kind of do the, go west, young man, settlers thing, like like early Americans did when the West opened up. And there's not a lot of them that even go over there, which is why the Midison aren't discovered when they go over there. the Yigzan and the Gorg and the Sadisons don't run into the Midison because there's a big mountain range that sits between them and the Midison, and they have really no reason to go all the way to the far side of that continent. And and they also have no reason to leave the Yigzan homeland and go over here to the eastern side of that continent. Just go over here and come in on the eastern side. They have no reason to come in over here. Like I said, they've got pretty much everything they need. Come on, the Yigzan homeland is mostly prairie. I mean, there's woods, there's trees and stuff. And the trees are funny because they're like these little islands and small forests, but they're not big sweeping forests like are up here in the northern mountains. Up in the northern mountains and in the Sadisons, there's a lot of trees. They're up on the mountainsides and the hills and stuff, but there's a lot of trees. So if the Yigzan need trees, they can go up here, or they can go out to those little islands of trees in their vast prairie nation and cut them down. So again, they don't have enough population, even though it's been about, well, let me see, it was almost 1,000 years from the time that their ancestors landed, and then 1,200 years after that. So 2,200 years. And then of course, you got to consider the Gorg War killed off a lot of them. So suddenly there was a whole bunch of free real estate for them to move back into. And then, the Horde came in, and you had other things happening. So, yeah, they never overpopulate this planet. You would think that, hey, they've been there 2,200 years or so, and why haven't they overpopulated the planet already? Well, you got to consider, how many, multiple billions of people have lived on Earth over its existence. And you've had calamities, you've had wars, you've had famines and plagues and pestilences and all kinds of stuff. I mean, nature has a really good habit of thinning the herd whenever it needs to. Survival of the fittest or the strongest or whatever like that. So, they, like I say, they never, in the 2,200 years they're on the planet, they never overpopulated. They start spreading out, but again, they only head to the eastern continent just because that was explored and it was actually kind of an interesting place to move to. Nobody bothers with the southern continent, just nobody's interested in it, and that's essentially Mesh was doing. He makes sure that nobody is interested in coming down here because he's saving this for a one-time use and a special occasion, which is you see at the end of, or you see in book 4. So, anyways, that's for sale. Let me go in here to the Abernai. The Abernai are, well, the Yigzan are Abernai. The Abernai are their ancestors. The general story of them is, and you'll hear about that in book 3. I won't say too much on that, but the Abernai are kind of like the Yigzan. They are science and information nerds. They just love technology, and they're huge on technology. And they've got literally the most advanced technology in the entire galaxy. And they run the organization called the Commonwealth, which is essentially a socio-political organization designed not as a UN, not as a how do I say this? They're not, it's not meant to govern everybody equally as a united galaxy and stuff. No. The Commonwealth is there to keep the plebes in line. And the Abernai created it, like I said, they created it not to give everybody an equal voice. It's there to keep everybody in line. Because they consider they're arrogant. They consider everybody else in the galaxy beneath them. Like, way beneath them. Some of them, they even treat them as slaves. So what happened at one point in the past is there was a group of Abernai that were just like, we're done with this. We're not, we're tired of this. We're tired of their attitude and stuff. They were tired of the Abernai just like everybody else was, but they didn't know what to do. So what they eventually decided to do was they had found a planet on the edge of the galaxy that nobody had colonized. It was a vibrant, thriving planet, but there was no life on there other than like the natural lions and the and the prairie animals and stuff. It was, it was a living world, but there were no. Well, I can't say sentient because you can consider lions and tigers and all that stuff sentient. There was no higher sentient, no life forms of higher sentience like humans and stuff like that on the planet. So they were like, okay, we're going to get together everybody of our who thinks like we do, and we're going to move to this planet, and we'll just get away from the Abernai. We'll get away from their their sick and twisted ways and their overbearing, domineering attitude and the Commonwealth and all that. We'll just move in here. And what they do is they take Gorg and Sadison with them, which the Vogori are the Gorg. The Vogori is what the Abernai knows them as. They're kind of to the Abernai, they're a low-level servant. The Asagi, the Gorg are a low-level servant and slaves. They're a subclass to the Abernai. The Asagi, which becomes the Sadison, they are the muscle men. They are the guys who are the enforcers. They keep, they help the Abernai keep everybody in line. But yeah, the Abernai are kind of the villains of the third book, and you get to also, because this goes back in time, you get to see how they played a part, and some of the people from their society played a part in the Great Awakening and the genesis back to technology, and really, just how that sudden shift in Yigzan society and Brazail as a whole, or Brazail, excuse me, as a whole, happened. And this also, there's events in here that also set up Book 4. So, and you'll see that in there too. But yeah, you got this. It's not really, like a monarchy. It's like a house system like they had in England back in the day, where they got like these three here are the three biggest houses, the most powerful, although there's a lot of other ones. There's the royal house. There's just tons of different houses, lots of little houses where they're small, they don't have much money. They're not as powerful as the other three. They're always kind of at each other's throats, which is hilarious. There's all these house war. They'll have like this little bit of peace, and everybody pretends to get along, and then things get stirred up, and next thing you know, you have a house war for a while, and they beat each other up, and they send their servants out to beat each other up for no good reason, and kind of like what arrogant royals would do. But anyways, that's the Abernai. And just to give you an idea of how advanced they are technologically, they're called the Star Builders for a reason, because these guys legit have the technology to build suns and planets and entire solar systems from scratch. Not like we're going to go out and collect a bunch of material, put them together, and make stuff. No. They literally make them from scratch. They have the technology to produce everything needed to create these planets and these stars, and they know how to ignite the stars and start them up, and they know how to spin up the planets and create the solar systems and everything. And literally, like I say, they do it from nothing. That's how advanced they are. Their starships are actually kind of cool because they look like well, they look like bobsleds that are made out of just pure white pearl. They're kind of cool. I haven't found anybody that has any kind of ships or pictures of ships that look even remotely like what their ships are, but their ships are just cool. That's how I have it pictured in my head. Is they're like I say, they're kind of like this really cool bob head. Well, it's like a bob head and a flint arrowhead had a kid, and it was pearl colored, and they're just really cool ships. They're powerful ships too, but they're really cool ships. And yeah, and you get to see throughout the book, you get to run into Pasile. He's funny. He's the son of Lord Bricket, but he's very much one of those guys that I don't want to have anything to do with your horrible way of doing things. And oh, okay. Anyways, and I don't want to have anything to do with your way of doing things, and your attitude of we are gods and stuff like that. He's a very down to earth guy. He actually lives among the natives on Bersail for a while to study him, and then his buddy Yazik, who's also his man in waiting, he's down there on the planet too, helping him out studying the Yigzan people, the primitive Yigzan people who were formerly Abernai. So they're interesting characters. Let me think here. Trying to think if there's anything else I could cover about this world, because it's I'm trying not to give away too many things and trying not to spoil anything for you, but there's just so much in this series, and and it's 4 individual stories, 4 individual episodes, but it all paints one great big picture. I mean, it's kind of like I did with the Earthfleet Saga. It's 4 individual stories, but they all paint a larger picture. And that's kind of what these books do. I'm trying to think what else there was. Oh. These guys are somebody you're going to meet in the second book. They're called the Horde. These guys are wild. You have the Margog, who is the chief guy who runs them all. This dude is just evil incarnate. He's something else. Then you've got the 4 different characters, the 4 different types of Horde. Geffen, Imp, Furgon, and Garrick. Then you've got guys like this who they basically they broke. They were found by Dr. Slough, and he fixed them but made them better. And they end up working as like inside operatives for Dr. Slough inside the Horde. So they're Horde. They're of the same stripe as the bad guys, but they're actually good guys. So, yeah, Vermach's the main guy. Ikpok's the sidekick. Now this guy, Sigarg. I wish I had a better picture because this looks cheesy, but Sigarg is an interesting dude. He is the head demon for Nagago, and this dude's got a sword. Now this sword doesn't give it justice what he's got. His thing he's got is like if you've ever seen Final Fantasy, that I think it's Cloud is the guy's name. He has that absolutely massive sword hanging off his back. Well, that's what Sigarg has. He has this absolute just monster sword, and it's just everybody's just terrified of it. And he's the top demon. He's the right-hand man to Nagago. And you don't meet him until the second book, and you don't even realize you've met him. Well, unless you've already checked out my wiki, but you don't realize who he actually is until the end of the book. And his right-hand man is Regnig. This guy is a psychopathic prick. His favorite weapon is this, I wouldn't call it a sentient bullwhip, but it's not one that's like a dumb weapon. It's a heck of a formidable weapon, and it does a great job with and it does a great job with destroying enemies. The thing is, he is inferior to Sigarg because there are battles that they get into in book 4 where Regnig gets all cocky and comes after Sigarg and immediately regrets it. It's like, okay, I just told you who won, but you got to kind of expect that. It's not who won, it's how he won. The fight is just epic. You will love it. It is so cool. It's short, but it is just amazing. It's such a fun fight, and then you also get to see Sigarg going through and doing some other fun things in the middle of that battlefield, because Regnig is only one of several guys he goes up against, and you also get to see Sigarg battling, Sigark and Regnig battling a few times before that, so you get a kind of an idea of what their skills are like. But they're some really cool baddies. Let's see who else was there. I mean, there's other smaller races and stuff like that. And one thing I got to say is, as far as characters and types and classes and races and stuff like that, Land of the Lions is not as deep as Earthfleet. I mean, Earthfleet is deep. There is just piles of stuff. Thousands of different races. I mean, I've only named probably 30 or 40 of them, named or identified them. But there is like thousands of them filling up an entire galaxy and stuff like that. And yet, Land of the Lions is a lot simpler on the races and the characters and stuff like that, because that one doesn't need to be as vast or robust as Earthfleet does. So, like I sound like I'm running out of stuff to talk about, and I kind of am. But at the same time, there's a lot to talk about in here. Let's go back. Come on. There we go. Just Cackle, my Sanchez. Yeah, here's one of the smaller characters. Zorg, he's kind of interesting. Oh, 4 Children. They come in book 2. I'm not going to tell you anything about them. You got to check them out. They're neat. Let's see. Sign and Rom. Those names are puns, and you'll see why they're puns and why I did that. But that's kind of fun. Minor character. That's Regnig, Pasile, Pen, Odevian. Yeah, another minor character there. Bradish. Yeah, Bradish, nothing there, special there. Oh, here we go, Braddock. This guy is the king of the Ixan Nation at the time of book 3 when they go back in time. He is cool. He is this just hardcore king character, but he's also very open to the stuff that Tigani and his brother and his friend, because Rom comes along with him, but Tigani and Ibarra, I think it is, they stay on the planet, whereas the other guys go off into the galaxy. So that story is actually told in two different theaters. But yeah, his stuff is really cool. The things he has to deal with. He's very open to science and technology. He helps to bring about the Great Awakening. Did I get that the wrong one? Okay, no. Okay, I did get that backwards. Rom is the senior officer. Sign's the executive officer. That's right. So yeah, they come along with Sign. Sign's a really cool dude. He's the second-hand man to Rom, but when he gets out on his own, he just becomes his own thing, and he's just amazing. He's a fun character. I enjoyed writing him. Trying to think if there's anyone else that was interesting. Del Gra. He's another one of those special forces guys. He ends up getting put in a command position for Echo Military Labs, and he's really cool because he's pulling the strings in the background and fighting against Feral Black secretively. And it's really cool because him and Odevian, if I remember correctly, they're both special forces operatives, and they end up working together where, like, Odevian's his field agent, and he's back at the at the lab in the suit and coat, doing things and making sure to keep Feral Black at bay and keep him under control and stuff. It's really cool. There's just all this stuff that goes on. He's a sharp dude. Really knows how to work the system and everything. I did Fergant, right? Yep, okay, I did him. Oh, here's one of the baddies, Garmek. he's the baddie at the end, or he's one of the baddies at the end of book 1. You're gonna like him. The final fight with him was a blast. Guardians. Okay, that's the Guardians. That's who Rom and Sign belong to. They're created by Dr. Slough. They play an important part in the book. Yeah, and other than the Abernai Lords, I think that's pretty much all. Plus, we're at 40 minutes, so I think that's enough. So next time, I think what we will do is go into the world of Land of the Lions, because there's, I've already touched on Bersail, but there's other things like Par La Brodelle and Mark Tan and other places like that, Echo Military Labs. We could cover this on the next one. I've touched on some things, but we can cover in this a lot more. A lot of interesting stuff to talk about. So anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video.